Hello? Hello? Are we live? Question mark? Hello?
I think
Yeah,
we're
because
live.
Welcome,
wow,
welcome,
yeah,
welcome.
seems
I
like
know.
you are.
It's part of my opening bit.
Damn.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yo, this is how good we are
establish
now.
this episode.
Yep. Welcome back to today's podcast, everyone. Today we have the return of our re- Jeffrey replacement, Joram.
Replacement.
So tune in for next week because Joram will be here too.
Damn.
That's what you say at the end of the podcast. I'm kidding.
Those are some pretty big shoes to fill if I have to replace Jeffrey.
They're not. They're really not.
Fun fact, Joram, the last time you were on was the last time Jeffrey was on as well.
Correct.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah.
I believe so. It was the
That was,
episode.
that was a while back, so that's
I would have to go back and check then.
Is that that one or the one after that? I'm pretty sure it was the one.
It was one or two after actually.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Jeffrey, if you're watching, you're still pretty cool to me.
He's
The
trying to
babe.
he's trying to butter you up so he can take your position.
All right, so we got an exciting episode today, or not, depending how you feel about.
Depending on who
usual
you're
topic,
asking.
Some of you guys may notice a pattern here, since we have Jerome here. We could either be talking about RTC, or we could be talking about the other thing. And
Just a side note, that is not all what my life revolves around, okay, everyone?
all right, what topics have we talked about here while
Of
you're
course.
involved?
Of course.
We talked about how you said you would not be 100% sure that you're not going to suck a dick in the future. I recall that very vividly.
I don't remember.
Yeah.
Maybe?
No, I remember the question for that was if you had the ability to, would you
I-
suck your own dick? And Paul said, oh, it's worth a try.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the Shaquille O'Neal and Michael Jordan thing.
No.
Okay.
We
But-
talk about dicks a lot on this podcast.
It's because you love dick so much, Paul.
Yeah.
Maybe-
That's the only way to get you to start talking, you know?
Hey,
Maybe, maybe a little bit too
2021.
much.
It is 2021.
Most people don't care at this point.
That is also true.
So, anyways, we're going to have an exciting episode of a debate between Jerome, our guest, and our boy Jim.
Hey.
Yeah, indeed. And you guys can take a guess of what it's going to be about. It's going to be
Take-
about politics.
place your bets down. Place your
Politics
bets down.
again.
Once the debate starts, all bets are final.
Mhm.
So far, the odds are 5-1, 5-1,
5 to
going
1.
to our house, Jim, and 1 to Joram. So place your
Wait,
bets wisely.
wait. Who's the sixth person?
Jeffrey
Casper.
Person.
Yeah, He's not even here. Yes, we have an absentee judge.
Jeffrey's the one vote for Joram right now.
Wait. So that means like Jim and Jerome are also like voting.
Yes. They have Casper and his friends to help vote for them.
This is a wild debate.
What would I
already.
do, Joram, to get you to convince voting for me?
Hey, I'm going into this debate very ill prepared, so I might even vote for you. So
All right. So, before
What's the
we end our
first one?
friendship, all right? Before we end our friendship,
friendship.
just a question. So what you been up to, Joram? It's been a while since we last spoken to you. I think it's been
Shoot.
like 2 months.
So I'm back in school. I'm starting my master's program at JSU. So
Ooh.
I've been very busy in school, and I have classes Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, and every day. One class each day, but each class is from 6 to 9 p.m. So
Yeah.
it sucks having class that late, and that's the maximum amount of classes you could take for the master's program. And it's not much. Oh, it depends. I guess it depends who you're talking to. For me, I can manage it since I'm not really like working. So it's just a lot of reading, a lot of reports to do and whatnot, and yeah. That's
How
what
does it compare with your normal your regular like bachelor's program?
It's a lot more hands-on. So with the public administration program, they train you to basically work in like the public sector or a nonprofit.
Mhm.
So you're going, let's say, after I finish the program, because one of the classes I have to take later on in my third or fourth semester of the program is an internship class, and I will have to be interning for like a lot of the organizations that work on behalf of the city. So they train you to be like a policy analyst for the city, or like an administrator for the city and stuff like that, or whatever
Wow.
public organization. But it is more hands-on. So one of the projects I'm working on in my class, it's like a class project, but then when we submit it, there's an actual like body that we're doing the project for that's actually going to be looking at our analysis of whatever project that we're analyzing for them, and we're recommending to them basically like, oh, like, is your project working and whatnot. So for that class, one of the things we're looking for is this California Senate Bill 291, and it deals with analyzing the Cal Grant and how it's helping, or its effects on community college students, especially, and like, what tweaks should they do to the program? Is the program helping the students? Is it basically working, and what changes it's going to do? So it's a big project for one of my classes that we're doing, and that's just one project out of another. So
So there are like more projects.
there's more projects. There's 3 classes I have. I have 3 different projects basically.
Oh, God.
And then on top of those projects, I'm like, every other week I'm doing like staff reports, because they grain it in your head, because a lot of these organizations, what they want basically, people going into that sector to know is how to make staff reports, basically make recommendations on like your analysis on certain things and stuff like that. So it's a lot. But my first week, because it's been a while since I've actually been in a program again. My first week into the program, in my head I'm like, what did I get myself into? But by the time I'm to the 3rd week, like I've grown accustomed to it. It's just a lot of being able to manage your time well, and speed reading's a good friend.
Oh,
Do you think like going through undergrad through political science helped you like get accustomed to this new program, or did you feel like that you kind of had to like rely on yourself more to really?
I think it helps a lot. So a lot of the people that are in the program with me do have a political science background, but there are some people who don't, and a lot of those people make it up with like they're actually working full-time jobs in like cities and stuff like that, and like cities in like city government basically. So like they have that to back them up in terms of being in the program. Whereas the people who don't really have work experience but have that political science background, it helps them in the sense that they're used to the amount of writing and reading you have to do for the program. But they, in terms of like being able to analyze certain things you have to do in the program, I don't have that luxury of being able to grasp it easily, because I don't have that hands-on experience with it compared to the people that actually work for like city governments or like Caltrans and stuff like that.
got you. Oh, sounds pretty exciting.
Yeah.
Yep, 3 more semesters. So
And
This is your
you're
first one, right? Or first? Is this your first or second semester?
this is my first semester in the program.
Oh, okay.
you guys like they start you off like running immediately.
Yep, they
Yeah.
do.
But generally, like master programs are like 2 years, right?
Yes,
Compared to, like,
generally.
Generally,
four-year.
yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
All right. Nice. So about like 2 years from now, you'll have a master's degree.
Yes.
Exciting.
Hey, I'll catch up, man. I'll be right there with you. All right.
Yeah, same here. I'll catch up.
Wait, not you. What the
I
fuck?
might get there one day, maybe,
Maybe.
if I feel like
catch
it.
up.
It's not a race, guys. Sorry, it's not a race.
All right, my money though is on Kenny. He's gonna get his first before any of us. All right,
What do you mean?
he's got connections.
Connection.
He has my vote.
I don't know if you guys know, but I have a doctorate in procrastination.
Oh shit!
Shit, son.
That's one doctorate more than all of us.
Very true.
There soon, you'll be there soon. I believe in you.
All right, so do we want to get on with the debate now?
Yeah, that's good.
Got like about 3 topics to cover.
So, do you want to do your opening statement first, or do you want me to go?
You can go first.
All right. For the first topic we're gonna cover is gonna be capitalism versus socialism. So
Okay.
pretty much, the side I'm gonna defend or argue for is socialism, or to be more specific, market socialism. So socialism pretty much has 2 underlying principles. One being the democratic expansion of the workplace, meaning that you give more power to the workers by having them vote for whoever is going to represent them at the workplace. Whereas in a capitalistic private firm, pretty much, let's take Jeff Bezos. He owns Amazon, or at least I believe he still does. I heard he stepped down. I'm not sure that's true, but for argument's sake, let's say Jeff Bezos owns Amazon, and then he hires a few executives to do some jobs, and then those executives may hire other people, and kind of works from like a top-down perspective. Whereas with a socialistic structure, also known as worker-owned cooperatives, it works from the bottom up. So when you get hired into the workplace, you own a share of the workplace along with everyone else, and then you elect your managers, you elect your CEO. Pretty much the same way we vote for our president, it would work that in similar way in a worker-owned cooperative. And the second part of socialism that is really fundamental is selective decommodification of certain markets. What that means is that you want to remove a certain market from financial incentives if it's proven that the outcome is better. For example, we can do this with healthcare or infrastructure or public roads. Every major country in the world does this to some degree, even the United States. For example, in Norway and many other countries in Europe, they do this with healthcare, where you don't have a private market for that. The government is the sole person or entity that pays for your healthcare. In the United States, we do this with some transportation. We do this with infrastructure, where we don't pay for it out of our own pockets. It is paid for through our own tax dollars, and it's with these 2 principles that I believe that we can advance towards this world in the future to maximize not only human freedom but also human happiness. As I want people to feel like they are more involved or have more power over themselves at work. And I believe capitalism does not grant this, because capitalism kind of relies on some economic underclass, which, like, whether it may be wage slaves, where people are making wages that are a lot less than what they really should be earning, or whether it's us exploiting some country in the global south for their resources or for their labor or whatever. And that's gonna sum up my position on this. And I guess I'll pass it on to Joram.
Wow, that was a really good
And back
opening
to
statement.
you, Joram.
That was a really good opening statement.
Indeed, that was my impression.
I was listening. I was like, shit. How do I follow that up? Okay, so I am going to be arguing in favor of capitalism, and for me at least, I'm arguing in favor of capitalism because I believe in as minimal of a role by government when it comes to free market, and I feel like capitalism that having that competition in the market is good for the overall, I guess, operating system on how to operate in terms of the economy. I feel that although capitalism has a steep risk to it, I feel like the benefits outweigh that greatly. Yeah, that's all I could give you for an opening statement.
All good. So that's pretty much it, brother.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So if I got this correctly for your statement for capitalism, it's more like it should be more libertarian. Government should be have more hands-off approach.
Yes.
And it should be based more on competition, and there are risks and there are rewards. However, the rewards greatly outweigh any negatives there would be in a capitalist system. All right. And as for Jim, I would summarize that your beliefs with like socialism, it's more egalitarian, more democratic, especially when it comes to your bosses, your managers, your CEOs, and that you would, instead of having someone be appointed for you, the workers, no matter how low on the totem pole within the company, would be able to vote for their leaders, just like in a regular democratic government. Correct?
Yeah.
Okay. And so it's just more workers having more control over their lives, as opposed to where they currently are now with our current system, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Got you. And so that was like opening statements right there from both Jim and Jerome. And now we're going to go over, was that like one of the topics, or are we now going to go into our three topics?
We're gonna go over that first, and then after this
Yeah.
topic, we're moving on to the next one.
All right.
Because we
I
didn't really like, I guess, debate it out in a sense. Those are just
Indeed.
opening statements.
Indeed.
Yeah.
So I didn't write this down because you caught me caught off guard a bit before we started. But Jim, what were our three topics again?
So the three topics we're gonna do is cap versus socialism, which is what we're doing right now.
Mhm.
Healthcare and positions on the $15 minimum wage.
Okay, so healthcare
Okay.
at $15. All right, gotcha.
Would that tie into what we're debating here?
I mean, it'll be kind of hard to like not like talk about it a little bit from my perspective, but
Okay.
it's not. We're not gonna go in too much in depth with those because it's not the.
I feel like on some of those things, we can see an even ground. That's why, especially with the $15 minimum wage.
Or just like any minimum wage
Yeah.
in general, just to make it a little bit more broad.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, cool. And then if we want to go over like any other topics as well, like other policies, then there's also welcome.
Yeah, this is gonna be a little bit more policy based than the last debate because I think the last one was just trying to see where you guys agree and disagree.
Okay.
Yeah, it definitely
Yeah,
felt a lot more like, yeah, I agree that we should not be assholes to each other. Hot take. So hopefully this is a little bit more informative.
Okay.
Okay, so I guess we're gonna move on to the freeform discussion where we just talk, normally about the topic.
Mhm.
And okay, so pretty much, this is my view of how the capitalistic structure works. When you said that we don't want government to be involved with the market, and you want it to stay out of the free market as much as possible. I
As
totally
much
agree
as
with that.
possible. Yes.
Yeah, I totally agree with that because this would also apply under market socialism, because the socialism that some people advocate for, which is which I would assume you mean like when the government tells the free market, hey, this is what you can or can't do, and we're gonna watch over closely over like the things you guys do, without really talking about regulations that are really important, such as environmental ones where you want to preserve the environment as much as we can. I think you would agree with that part of
Yes.
of government involvement, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Under market socialism, the same thing would conceivably happen. The reason why I would take it a step further with how much government is involved is because I view the way traditional private firms, or how work is currently structured in the United States, as a similar way as you and I would see like feudalism. Because feudalism, if you look at how it works, you have like the big lord who controls over a giant area, right? And then he has serfs working under him, and the serfs are exchanging their labor on the land, whether it be farming or crafts or whatever it may be, in exchange for getting to live on the land and having some sort of freedom. And and you can disagree with me if you or you can correct me if I'm wrong, but we will both agree that in itself is wrong, because the serf doesn't really have freedom, because he is in this state of coercion where the person in charge of land has this huge amount of power against that person. So that person doesn't really have much choice except to work on that land, right? Like, he can't conceivably move from that land to a different land in a different part of the country or whatever, or a different part of the globe. But essentially, all he'd be moving is from one feudalistic society to another. So in a sense, he's not really going to be free unless he decides to like go off in the woods somewhere and kind of stay away, isolated from the rest of the world, which is something we both don't want for the majority of people. So in that sense, if we use this to match with worker on cooperatives is similar to how we structure our government today, where we don't have feudal lords anymore. We have more say in who we elect to have more powers under a certain amount of land, like whether it be like the governor or the senator or president. What would be wrong with expanding that to not just how we structure our government, but also in the workplace?
Going back to your just serfs, the lords, and you moving on to different land,
right.
Couldn't the worker? And I'm not saying anything's wrong with what you said, but couldn't the worker, try to move up and become a lord himself?
No.
Well, we're talking about like in the historical context, or are you linking that to how?
Like just I'm looking at is from your analogy, I'm looking at it as like that that's the only other option that the worker has, is like to move away. What I'm saying is like there's other options, if you don't like the current, I guess in a sense that we're talking about, is like is the worker, if you don't like the current job you're in, you can move away, like you said. Two, you can, I guess, try to move up the ladder and try to be the boss, so like you can make someone that understands, I don't like the way that things are going and stuff like that. And if you work your way up, maybe you can be a better boss than the current boss that you are now. Or three, there are measures in a lot of organizations in which you can confront that problem, is what I'm trying to say.
So like, I believe you're trying to say, like, as a worker, right, or as a serf,
Yeah.
you have the power to move to gather enough resources or wealth so that you can become your own boss, or a lord yourself, or in the workplace a boss.
Yeah.
And then you would treat your workers a lot better than the area that you were living in before, right?
Yes.
Or the workplace you were at before.
Yeah.
The problem with that is that not everybody can be a serf, though, or not be a serf, not be a boss or a feudal lord, though. There's always going to be some underclass, whether it may be a small village or whatever, or some area where they are going to be less wealthy than you. And even if you're a good boss, which a lot of bosses are, like a good boss can make a hell of a world of a difference versus a really shitty one, right? But at the end of the day, there's always going to be shitty bosses, and there's always going to be a bunch of people working under that person, or a bunch of serfs working under a shitty lord who is going to be exploited by that lord. So in a sense that if we were talking about working on cooperatives, that power imbalance isn't really there, because that the lord or the boss that you're electing has to work to fit what your needs are, like like for example, pay time off, right? If you want paid time off, you want to vote for someone who would represent, hey, I want to give everyone paid time off, and in exchange, you get paid time off, you work for them, but they have to like follow that
Yeah.
promise of paid time
Mhm.
off. Whereas with a boss, if they're a good boss, they'll give you paid time off. Don't get me wrong, that's great,
Yeah.
that's awesome. But that not every boss will, and there's always going to be people who are working under a boss that does not give you paid time off or give you bathroom breaks or whatever it may be.
When we're
And
talking about the situation, a worker situation, are we talking about like a private organization or like a public sector organization? Because a lot of public sector organizations, their boss, a lot, or at least with like city governments or like school districts, their boss do in a way have to. There is that balance between the workers and the boss, because a lot of, especially in schools like Eastside Union High School District, the unions there, they can complain to the union if like their boss isn't like meeting those needs and stuff like that the workers are getting mistreated and whatnot, or they're not getting certain benefits the boss is restricting for them and whatnot. And the same thing with the city, like a lot of city employees who don't see the vision that the boss is seeing, or don't really believe that that the boss is steering the style, or steering the ship in the proper direction. A lot of them, what we call them, go in a mode of guerrilla government, where they kind of go behind the boss's back to try and work their way around their boss's policies and do what they believe is best for their organization's policies. I like the one I like to bring up is with the EPA under Donald Trump. A lot of the workers there went behind the backs of the people he appointed and basically created their own guerrilla government to try and counter what they believe was isn't the direction they wanted their organization to go into, basically.
I see, but wouldn't it be easier if instead of having, I mean, don't get me wrong, I like unions. Unions are poggers, they're great, but not every job's going to have a union, or not every job's going to have a way for you to really have a way.
That's true.
To kind of enact what you want out of the workplace for you. Whereas when you're working on cooperative, you at least have the literal direct say as to like, hey, I want this person to be the boss, or I want this person to be the boss, and I feel like it'd be a lot simpler instead of people forming their own shadow governments to overtake the boss. It would be a lot easier if people just had a say.
Before we go into that, I think Joram had a question at the beginning. Is like, are we talking about like private entities, or are we talking about like public sectors when we're talking about like just
because if we're talking about private,
when it comes to public sectors, I would still want it to be work on cooperative, but it comes along with the line of the decommodification part I was talking, where we don't want that area to be looking to make profit when it's better to not have it. So in a sense of like the public sector and private sector, yes, I would like to see people.
Because in the private sector, I would be more inclined to go a little bit in what Jim's trying to say, because a lot of those private sector companies don't give that same benefit in terms of being able to make a union, that mobility in terms of being able to go up and down the ladder, if you want to improve your job and whatnot like that, compared to like people in the public sector. So I can get on board with Jim there in terms of the private sector.
Okay. So would you be open to working corporate-owned cooperatives taking a bigger part of the economy? Like, let's say, like we legislate, like, let's say, hey, we'll incentivize banks to give loans to business owners to start work-owned cooperatives, and work-owned cooperatives start taking more and more a bigger share of the market, of the free market. Would you be open to that?
I'm still thinking, trying to wrap my head around that in like a lot of like, because aren't unions technically that?
No, because with unions, while it gives you power to
Because
collectively bargain.
they have their own representatives when it comes to like when they're on the negotiating
But
table.
at the end of the day, whether or not you're in the union, the
Mhm.
boss, the CEO, or whoever the boss is that owns the place, he's the one who owns it. He has to say as to who he hires and who he promotes, right?
Okay.
Whereas
Mhm.
in a work-owned cooperative, there's no one that owns it at the top. So everyone owns it at the bottom, and they vote for people to move up to the top. So they would elect someone to be the CEO of Amazon. They would elect someone to be an executive of Amazon, someone to be their manager, and so on and so on. So unions are great, and it would still exist.
Yes, I see what you're saying. So basically, like what you mentioned, the cooperative, it would just be the next step after the union, basically.
Yeah,
that's what I'm trying to wrap my head around.
We would have to rebuild. Our unions right now are like pathetically weak right now.
Yeah.
So because people don't really have much power when they're in one. Like if for example, like in the Scandinavian countries, they have really strong unions to the point where they don't have a minimum wage. We can get to that later if you want, but they don't have a minimum wage. The unions, there's just everyone's in union there. They have so much collective power to the point where they can just like bargain for a higher wage without a federal mandate on what the minimum wage should be. And that's a great thing, but I would want to take it a step further to give workers more democracy or more rights.
Yeah, I don't know what the exact number is. I think currently in the United States, like union membership is only 10% of workers. So majority of people are not in unions.
Unions are only strong. I think John would know this as well. Is that unions are only strong if like a giant portion of the population is in one, because the more of you there are, the less, the harder it is for your employer to take away stuff from you.
Majority of people that are in unions also are like people that work in schools. I know one of the biggest unions here in California are that union with the prison guards that work at state prisons and whatnot. They dictate a lot of what. I forgot what Supreme Court case that was that dealt with like California prisons and whatnot, like a few years back. But back to your original question, would I be open to the legislation regarding cooperatives? I would be. I would be.
Okay, yeah, I'm looking at numbers right here. So like based on the data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, about 14.3 million, or about 10.8% of U.S. employees were in unions in 2020, and that's only about just a little bit over half of like 20.1% of people in unions in 1983.
Yeah, also a big thing about the union part, where it makes it a little bit weaker, especially in the United States, is that a lot of the big companies kind of do a lot of propaganda to tell the workers not to join.
Join the union. Yeah,
they would like sit you down, be like, hey, watch this video, and the videos would tell them all the bad stuff that's wrong with unions. Like, hey, this is why you shouldn't join one. So then the worker kind of leaves, like, okay, well, shit, that kind of suck. And so because so many people have that impression when they leave and they don't join a union, the unions don't really have any power. So it's kind of really unfortunate. Whereas under market socialism, as long as we give power back to the unions, it kind of like jams up the process of big companies trying to stop people from unionizing, because the union's already there, but on top of that, the people who work there have a say in what happens. Yeah.
It's basically gives that legislative backing, basically, that those private companies can't maneuver around. That I could get behind.
I think the part where we would disagree is that I would go one step further beyond just having them, and this is only hypothetical, once we do have them, right? But once we collect enough data to say that worker-owned cooperatives work better than private firms, I think the step to go from there is to just mandate that not instantly, not overnight, but have a transitionary period where we have every private firm eventually convert over to a worker-owned cooperative, if we have enough results saying that it's a better system. Similar to how we now look back at feudalism, we laugh at it because of how inefficient it was and how little freedom it gave people.
You would need a lot of data to get me on board to force a lot of these private firms.
Well, what we do have data. Unfortunately, the sample size is nowhere near enough compared to like all the private firms out there, right? That's true. But from what data there is, and there's quite a bit, there's quite a lot. There's like quite a few, couple tens of thousands of co-ops out there that they run more efficiently. They have higher levels of worker satisfaction and worker happiness. They survive. They tend to survive better versus the first 5 years of businesses, which is where it's really hard to kind of take off. They do better in those 5 years than traditional private firms, and they also generally run more efficiently. And they also handle recessions and depressions more easily because everyone kind of weathers the storm together versus people getting laid off, which happens like all the time, especially like during COVID. Like, how many articles have you seen of how companies are laying off like tens of thousands of workers because of the pandemic?
A lot.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. All right. So All right. So, sorry to interrupt. Is there like any closing statements on this particular subject? Because it's been about like 30 minutes since we started the podcast. We got like 2 more other topics to get to.
I think on the most part with it, I think I'm in agreement with Jim on like a good chunk of what he's trying to say. Where we differ is just, I guess, on the implementation of it, or I don't know how to describe it, because I like what he mentioned with the whole basically because from what I grasp from it, basically you have the current unions now, and what Jim mentioned is if with the whole social cooperatives and whatnot, you're basically taking that to the next step and protecting the workers, and primarily more focused on the private sector, a lot of these private mega companies and whatnot, where I can definitely get behind that. Or I'm kind of hesitant to like to go full on board is when you when you say mandate all the companies to do.
Well, the reason why I said that is because if we have proof that a system runs better,
I guess so that's where I go. Or like I would need, I guess it would take a little bit of more data and evidence for me to fully go on board with that, at least.
Well, I mean, it's similar to how we view slavery, right? Because we view slavery as like, hey, although there were economic benefits with slavery, the problem with slavery was that it inhibits human freedom and human happiness, right? That's the same logic can be applied to, though, if we look at private firms, because private firms, although they are definitely not the same cog in the machine as slavery, they're just a different cog in a different machine that's similar.
Yeah.
All right. We're at 7:09. I say we move on to the next topic. Like, I believe healthcare.
Yeah.
Healthcare.
All right. You go for this one first on this one, buddy.
Okay, so for healthcare, I believe that I'm not. Let me rephrase that. I think there should be, a government option for healthcare, and a current private healthcare that that a lot of people get through their work and whatnot. I'm not really in favor of mandated healthcare that the government, just free healthcare that the government provides. I don't know. I just can't get behind that. One, because of the amount that it's going to cost, and two, there are a lot of people who are benefiting from the current healthcare they are in, provided by their work. Like, if you were to remove them off that, and to a mandated government healthcare, and I use my parents and my family who work for the school district, it's not as beneficial as compared to the healthcare they have that the work provides them. And it's just not them. You have to counter the fact that there's a lot of people that like their private healthcare right now. So I feel like the option should be there for the person to choose whether or not to go through their private healthcare or a government option. That's my opening statement there.
Okay, so essentially, you're being bored with like Pete Buttigieg's plan, where there's still a private market for insurance, but then there's an option. There's a government option where you can sign up for it, and then get the healthcare that way. And in a sense, you're arguing for universal healthcare, but not single payer universal healthcare, right?
Yes.
Okay. As for my opening statement, so pretty much, I'm an advocate for Bernie Sanders' Medicare for All plan. It is by far the most ambitious healthcare plan in the modern world, and I'm all here for it because when you look at our healthcare right now, we rank like 11 out of 11 of all the healthcare systems of all the developed countries in the world. And if you look at us compared to the other countries, the thing that we don't have is a option that is given by the government to have, right? We're the only country that has workplace tied healthcare, where you join a job or workplace, and then if they have healthcare, they give it to you, and then as long as you work for them, you'll be covered for healthcare. My problem with the private market healthcare, which is a part of the whole socialism decommodification thing, is that when you look at all the data, from what I've seen, that healthcare works far better when it's removed away from the private market. And if you look at our system, it's really easy to see why our system is like, because it's so tied to the private market, why it's just terrible. Start with tying healthcare to your employer. If you work at a place, you get healthcare, and that's better than nothing, I guess. But that kind of stops a lot of people from leaving really shitty jobs. Because let's say you have a big condition, like you need money for insulin or some shit. It's really hard for you want to leave that job to look for a new one or a better one when your current job gives you healthcare, and then the jobs you're applying for, the process takes a while, and you have to find your way after work or on the weekends or some shit to really get that job. It feels like an anchor. It's tying you down. That doesn't really let you have much other choice. And then then you might argue, okay, but what about the public option? So the problem with the public option is that, well, it's definitely way better than what we have now, and it's a step in the right direction. And I would much rather have that right now than what we have right now. The problem with that is that when you don't have universal programs, they're far more easier to cut. What would happen is that if we had a public option, is that we implemented, everyone has fucking healthcare. It's great. Everyone can finally go to the doctor or whatever. But it's going to get cut eventually, like usually by Republicans, because Republicans like to cut anything that's not universal. They've been trying to cut Social Security for fucking decades, and look how that's going. Social Security is still standing, and And whether or not you like Social Security or not is irrelevant because it's still around and people like it enough for it to stay. It's hard for people to cut it. Whereas if you look at something like Medicaid, which is pretty much like a universal healthcare program for lower income households or people, which is a great thing. I don't know how you feel about Medicaid, Joram, but the problem with Medicaid is that it is always getting cut, and people with low income are losing more and more healthcare because it's always being cut. And if we implement it universally, it's a lot harder for people to cut it. Like in the UK, you might have heard stories about how people want to privatize the NHS. And don't get me wrong, I'm not a big fan of the NHS, but it's a hell of a lot better than what we have here. Like it's in danger of getting cut all the time, but still standing regardless. And I don't want the NHS in the United States, but I would like healthcare to be universal. It's a lot harder to get rid of once people realize how good it is. And then you made another point as to how it provides better the private market may provide better results than the public option or the government mandated option. The problem with that is that when you look at the private market, the private market has one goal, and it's to make as much money as they can, while giving out whatever it is they're selling. It's one thing to have that with, like, for example, food. Like, for example, like if you were to go to a candy store and you really want a chocolate bar. A chocolate bar sounds really fucking good right now. You go in there, they say it's $1. You got money in your credit card. You're gonna buy that candy bar if you really want it. And if you go in there and they're like, hey, it's $100 for a candy bar, you'll probably say, yeah, nah, I'm good, because $100 is a little much. But when it comes to medicine, there's no price that you won't pay to get insulin or penicillin or whatever it is to stay alive, because, well, you don't want to die. So you will pay anything to get insulin. But with the private market, they can charge you anything for that insulin. That's why when you look at Canada, they pay far less for something that we would pay much more for. Like I think you can buy some drugs for like $4 there that would cost like $100 here. That's because we don't have anything to say that, hey, you can't rip us off. You can only charge this much. And the private market doesn't really interact with that aspect very well.
But is that the private market's fault, or is that the fact? It's the fact that we don't really have the public option. If we have a public option that delivers better quality care, then it's going to force the hand of the private market to meet and be in competition with the public sector.
But again, the public option is always going to get cut. Like, for example, this is thing that happened in Chicago where
so I guess the problem here would be, where are we prioritizing our spending when it comes to an overall?
Yeah. Also, I think a big point that I forgot to mention is that sorry, I'll finish with this and then we can move on to the free-form discussion. Is that a big misconception that people have is that if we move to the Medicare for All program, that it's going to cost more than what we have now, and that's not true. Because the Medicare for All program, what it does is that essentially it abolishes private insurance, so that it stops the private insurance companies from essentially ripping you off. Because what other choice do you really have? Another thing is that by doing that, if you look at pretty much every study that comes about when it comes to the price, Medicare for All would cost less than what we have now. Meaning that if we fully transition from our employer-based healthcare system and our private insurance healthcare system, and we don't do those things anymore, and we just had a Medicare for All program, it would cost I think the number was $10 trillion less across 10 years. I could be wrong about the 10 trillion, maybe a little bit less, maybe a little bit more.
Yeah, so I'm gonna jump in a little bit because I actually did write down these numbers when we were planning our first debate between Jerome and I actually wrote down like some stuff on like a Google Doc. So according to like the the what was it? The Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services. So right now, our current system right now, if we continue on our current projection by 2028, yearly healthcare spending would be about like $6.19 trillion per year. So within a 10-year period, that would be about between $50 trillion and $60 trillion over a 10-year period. With Medicare for all, that would be cut to between like $30 trillion and $40 trillion over that same 10-year period. So comparing between like 30 to 40 trillion and 50 to 60 trillion, that's roughly about a 10 to $20 trillion cut in spending.
Oh, okay. So I was like lowballing it. Okay.
Yeah.
So in that case, if we switch to America for All system, which it's kind of hard to fight for that right now because not a lot of politicians really like it. We'd be saving money. So the better question is that how are we paying for our healthcare right now? It seems like it's not only less efficient but also costs a lot more. So, and I'll end it with that, and we can discuss.
For me at least, I think there is a way we can have both a government program and a private sector regarding healthcare. I just feel like our priorities in terms of allocating funds aren't really in the right.
Yeah, you'll get no.
In the right. I'm steering towards like we spend about $700 trillion in defense. Is what I'm saying.
Yeah, it's almost gone to like almost a billion.
I'm just saying, like, there are a lot of programs. If you go through the budget list at DC, or in terms of just defense spending, where you can say we can divert that money somewhere else. Like,
yeah, I mean, yeah, you get no arguments from me there. Like, for example, free college. A lot of people clown on it, like, you want free college, but if you look at the numbers, I think it ranges from like I know this is tangential, but costs like $60 to $70 billion just for free college. Like in relative to military spending, that's like nothing.
Exactly.
You can cut military spending by like 10% and pay for college for all people. But yeah, no, you'll get no arguments from me there. It's just that healthcare is one of the top priorities in my opinion because it's literally the well-being of your average person. And if you look at how insurance systems work, they're incredibly inefficient. People pay a shit ton of money that they don't really realize. Like, I believe you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe how it works is that you pay your insurance premiums every month, whatever it may be, and then you need to go to a hospital, and they have a deductible. I think it's the first one where you have to pay a certain amount before the insurance starts paying for your stuff. So like if your bill is like $60,000, they tell you like, hey, you gotta pay up $10,000 up front or $8,000 up front, and then they cover most of that, and then whatever is left, they're like, okay, here's the co-payment, you take care of the rest, and then for some people who get sick really young before you get Medicare, which is I believe the minimum age is 65 or
65, I believe.
65, yeah. So until you're 65, you're kind of getting ripped off a little bit if you're going to the hospital, especially when you're having a kid. People are having kids all the time, like less than before than they used to, but people like having kids because people sex is kind of fun, and
so we've been told.
so we've been told, just having a kid is really expensive if you don't have healthcare, and even with healthcare, if you're paying for it every month, you're still paying a shit ton of money to have a kid, and if it's tied to your employer, well, it's kind of hard to bargain for higher wages when they're like, "Hey, we cover your healthcare." So shit,
we'll move on to that next topic because the next topic is about the wages. We spent about 15 minutes on this topic, so
So I just don't see a way in which a public option is better, because there's always gonna be people getting ripped off, even if they don't really know about the specifics of how it is paid with Medicare for All.
All right, cool. Is there any other things you two want to add, or you guys want to move on to the next topic?
I'm gonna move on to the next topic.
Next topic. All right. Go ahead.
Who do you want to start here for minimum wage? Well, then wait. What are our stances on minimum wage?
Yeah. So the next topic is on. It was originally about the $15 minimum wage, but I felt that was a little bit too specific. I just want to talk about the minimum wage in general, or if there even should be a minimum wage. So, any one of you guys would want to start off? I think the first person to start off with was Jerome. So
I'm interested to hear what Jim thinks about this one.
So minimum wage. Right now, so we're talking about minimum wage. We're talking about the federal minimum wage. Obviously, every state has different living standards and costs.
Mm-hmm.
Like for example, $15 in California is like nothing compared to $15 in like Kentucky or some shit. So in my opinion, the living wage, or the wage that people should be making, as a minimum wage, no matter where they work, should always be whatever it is enough for them to live. So as long, like, I'm not too picky on it honestly right now. Like, as long as they're making minimum wage, no matter where they work in the country, as long as it adjusts to inflation every year and all that, I think it's the minimum I'll go. When it comes to the $15 minimum wage, I would love to see it because I think people's work value is severely diminished because people, if you adjust the minimum wage to just inflation, I believe the number would be like $20 or something, and if you tie it to inflation and productivity, it would go up to like $23, $25. So in a perfect world where we have strong unions and everyone's in one, and we have these stats, then I believe the minimum wage then would be everyone gets paid $25 no matter where they live. But because we don't have that, the best way we can go for it now, I think, is to have it go up to 15, and then see where we go from there. By going to 15, I don't mean like overnight going to 15. I would do a phase-in thing. It would go up over time. Like maybe we make 15 the end goal for now, but then like every year or half year we bump it up like a few dollars until it hits 15, and after that we adjust it to the living wage. And a lot of people would argue that, hey, if you do that, it hurts private business or small businesses, because small businesses, it's a lot hard for them to pay people a living wage compared to like Walmart. Because if a Walmart finds out they have to pay the workers like $20 an hour, they're gonna find a way, because they kind of own a lot of capital, right? So what I would do is that to incentivize this, you can do one or both of these two things. You can do one, give tax credits to small business to implement the increase in the minimum wage. Two, another thing you can do is you can subsidize them, where you just give them like, hey, we're gonna subsidize you some money so you can pay your workers more, and then as long as they do that, they get one or both those things, so that they can keep carrying on with their business. My problem with people, and I don't know if you believe this or not, is that when people say like, hey, if you do that, and businesses fail, then what then? Well, if we subsidize them by giving them money, or if you give them tax credit, and they still can't pay their workers a living wage, then I feel like they're just a really shitty business.
I was about to say that.
It's like saying like,
business is a good business.
Yeah. It's like saying like, hey, I have slaves, and if you tell me I have to free them, how am I supposed to continue my business, bro? Like, if I can't finish my business, I can't do business with my slaves, then shit, dude, maybe you should go out of business because you're not a very good business owner, right? So, yeah, judging by your reaction, I'm assuming you agree with that part at least.
I'm actually in agreement with almost everything you said. I'm for the minimum wage. I mean, I think $15 is a good start. I would actually think it should be about $20 to $25. I think they should increase the minimum wage.
Yeah, that's the ideal, but I think pragmatically, I think the best we can do is just like phase it in, and then just incentivize small businesses, because Walmart and Amazon, all them, they just own so much capital, man. It's just ridiculous to how much they own. Like, unless we break them up, they're just always going to dominate wherever they work. wherever they are. And I hope, but my end goal though is to have it become 23, 25, whatever it is, and then have strong unions to the point where we don't need a government telling us like, hey, you need to pay your workers this number at the very least, and just have unions to bargain with their workplaces to get paid $20, $25, whatever it is. And yeah, that'll end my opening statement.
All right, cool. You're
Yeah, I don't really think I'm against Jim on this one. I think when they first mentioned increasing the minimum wage to $15, I was like, oh, you know what? Yeah, I could get behind that. And then in my head, I'm like, maybe they could even increase it to like 20 to 25. And as Jim mentioned, that's hopefully the end goal, at least. And I looked at it as we actually discussed it over in one of my classes a couple of weeks ago. We were talking about this, and I think it's not only beneficial for people that currently working right now, but to a lot of it forces the hand. I go back again to a lot of these private companies where it's like, oh shoot, like why would anyone work for us if we're not paying, or if we're paying less than what the minimum wage is, and like a lot of the public sector. So I for my analysis, I think it also benefits those who are working in the private sector in the sense that it adds that competition in terms of people that are working in the private sector, and also on top of all the other stuff that Jim mentioned.
Yeah.
So I have nothing against. I have no argument against something for minimum wage. I think for me at least it should be. They could have gone to $20, but I think 15 is a good start.
Yeah. As long as we help small business somehow, because if we just leave them alone, like not a lot of people, but some people think it's going to happen.
Yes.
That then that's disastrous. But as long as we implement these to incentivize them in a sensible way, then I think everyone wins. Because what a lot of people also don't realize is that the more your average person makes, because a lot of people make minimum wage, and that's just the reality of it. Not everyone can become a CEO. Not everyone can move up the ladder. There's always going to be someone who works at the bottom. So the best we can do, I think a number was people like half the population, like 50%, make less than 30,000, and I'm pretty sure that's not $15 an hour. I'm not very good with that.
I think that's not $15 an hour.
That's probably not. I don't even know that.
I don't believe that's $15 an hour. Again, also not good at math.
Yeah, I don't know how to do.
That's fourth why I'm here.
That's why we're social science majors, man. We're not here because of our math skills. But yeah, half the population makes less than $30 an hour, $30,000 an hour, and if they make more money, they can participate in the economy more. They can buy a new car to replace their shitty car that they had.
Basically, if you invest in them, they're going to invest in the economy.
Yeah, it's like when this might be a myth that they tell in school, but it's like when Henry Ford raised he decreased the amount of days that his workers work from like 6 to 5, I think. So when workers had that extra day off, they were able to do more things. He also raised their wages, so they make more money, so they can buy his cars that he was making. So in the end, not only did his workers make more money and were happier, he made a lot of money off of them buying his cars because cars were pretty cool and cars got you from places to places. So, yeah, not really a lot of, in my opinion, not really a lot of downsides to doing all that.
All right, wow. I was actually quite shocked that there was like almost 100% agreement on this. I thought there would be at least like some pushback from like either side, but now it looks like you guys are pretty even on that. Yeah. So I'm gonna play like a little bit of like devil's advocate, because otherwise, if it ain't a debate, it's like, yeah, I agree with what you just said.
I thought
Mr. A. That's why I was interested. That's why I was interested. This was like, I'm glad. I was like, interesting how you brought that up because we were just talking about that in class, and I'm like, for a majority of the thing, I was actually in favor of that.
I honestly expect you have the very standard like, nope, 2025 is good enough. It's good enough for everybody. I thought you could have that take, man, because some people thought it was 725 was too much. I was just like, what the fuck? What world do you live in?
Maybe if you live in like rural Kentucky, maybe.
They've been there,
In California, you get good luck buying 7 McChickens in that.
I mean, that's McDonald's fault. I missed it when they were $1. Now they're like $2.50 now. Did you know that?
Wait, no, really?
They're not even in the $1 range. They're $2.50 now.
Really?
Yeah.
Last time I ordered a McChicken, I remember like 216, 2.
I used to measure like I got a certain amount of money, be like, shoot, I can buy how many McChickens in this? Now you're telling me to calculate the fact that they're more than $1 now.
Yeah, imagine it's 2021. You make $7.25 an hour. You can buy like
You can make a McChicken in
not even 3 McChickens because there's tax. So you need to pay. You can buy 2 McChickens an hour.
All right, so going back to like the original topic, I have heard, and being a little bit of devil's advocate, or at least like opposing argument, or at least a alternate policy when it comes to like the minimum wage. I have heard some people say, and I'm not going to say where on the aisle they fall, but I heard people say like because like going back to like the raising the minimum wage to $15 an hour or to like a higher wage would ruin small businesses. How about instead of enforcing a federal minimum wage or a federal $15 minimum wage that everyone has to abide by, including small businesses? How about we make it so only large corporations such as Walmart, Target, or Amazon have to pay $15 minimum wage, and we just leave small businesses alone? Because if we do that, then the small businesses will not survive. And I think Jim already touched up on that point already.
Yeah, at that point, like, you know.
Well, that's nothing for a lot of those mega corporations, though.
Yeah,
it's like
Walmart's gonna find a way. Whereas
they're gonna find a way to pay off to pay their employees the minimum wage. If it's $15, like that's nothing to like Amazon and Walmart.
Yeah, people won't work at a mom and pop shop when they can just work at Walmart and make more money.
Yeah. So I think it would be more detrimental to small businesses.
Yeah, and whatever small businesses that are left, there's still someone who works there who's not making enough money to live. So nobody wins in that. Small businesses don't win. People who work at small businesses don't win, and you know.
And yeah, I think the market failure there is bigger compared to as if you just mandate a minimum wage throughout.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure people who said that are probably like libertarians or something. I don't know. Libertarians are they're a special bunch. All right, not special like as in like autistic or anything. Special as like they have like really weird conflicting views.
Okay, and all right, and how about the argument that you often hear people say that if you raise the minimum wage, then so let's say $15 an hour, or just like in general.
Mm-hmm.
It would raise the price of products in our area. So instead of like going with the chicken nuggets from McDonald's example, you guys said like, no, it used to be like a $1.06. I didn't pay attention to how much the price was, to like $2 or something. Would you say that raise was due because in our area we have a $15 minimum wage? Do you say is like if we raise minimum wage, it's going to increase the price of products, negating the effects of having a higher minimum wage because now people have to spend more money to buy products?
Okay, so one, the prices are going up anyway. Like,
I was gonna say, isn't that that's just natural inflation regardless?
Yeah, that's $7.25. I think it was back in 2007. Was $7.25 was the new number, or 2008? It's one of those 2 years. And the McChicken went from $1 to $2.50. Okay, so it's gone up regardless, and people are still making the same money they did back then. So, like one thing is changing. It's not the people's wealth. Okay, it's the McChicken. All right. Second of all,
I mean, when something is amazing as a McChicken, the demand's always gonna be there, pal. Okay, people are gonna pay no matter what for a McChicken.
and second of all, like the McChicken would probably cost around the same in any other country that pays their workers a living wage. Like in like I said before, in the Scandinavian countries, they don't have a minimum wage. They have unions, even with basic ass McDonald's workers. The McChicken there, I'm pretty sure, would maybe cost like 30, 40, 50 cents more at the very most. But then they're making a lot more money working at McDonald's than they are here. So, kind of not really equivalent, or not really the same thing. So
Okay, so my question was also going back to the McChicken because this is very I think this is a topic all of us can relate to.
Stop talking about the
Yes.
McChicken. I'm so hungry.
Question is, do we like McChickens? Yes, we like McChickens.
we should get McChickens on Friday, dude.
Is the cost of a McChicken or a chicken nugget the same in all areas, or is it just like based on like location? Like,
As it, yeah,
the cost of McDonald's, would it cost more in like
That's what I was thinking too, is, like,
California, or would it cost
in, like-
or would it cost less in like, let's say, the South?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. I was like, would it depend on your location? Like, in California, I would understand why it would be a little bit more expensive, since
Yeah,
it is a wealthier place compared to, like, rural Alabama. It wouldn't make sense for it to be. And I think people who are coming up with the prices in whatever sector you are for McDonald's, like, I think they calculate that into their cost benefits, and then they calculate into the future, saying, okay, over time, how much are people really going to be paying for this, or how much are we going to make through this if we put it at this standard price at this certain point in time.
Yeah, and I mean, I think as it is right now, some stuff costs more or less depending where you live. Anyway, like I think pizza.
Would gas be a good example? I mean, like
gas.
Yeah,
Actually, it would be.
But I don't think it has anything to do with what people make. Also, I think another devil's advocate that people talk about a lot is like, oh, but if you increase the prices of the wages, then automation will take over. But it's kind of happening already. You go to your local Target, and people are not really wanting to talk to the cashier anymore. They're kind of going towards the checkout machines a little bit more, and you don't need as many workers for that. So it's going to happen regardless. It's just about how do we deal with it. And one way is definitely not by just leaving the minimum wage alone, because
like don't they do that like a lot in Japan already too? Like
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Like, is it really like? I think we're already headed there, but it's not really taking over like jobs or anything.
Dean, our regional Japan man, what say you on this?
Huh?
On automation in Japan.
Oh, it's amazing.
like, literally we went to like a ramen shop, and then there was no human interaction. We just went to the machine, ordered our shit, and then we got a ticket, and then sent them the ticket, and they brought us our food, and then we left. That's it.
Yeah.
Like, ate, and then we left. That's all we did.
Did the machine bring us our food, or?
Wait, were you there, Paul?
I was there. No, I was there. But I'm just saying, as I'm pretending I'm like the audience who don't know,
okay.
because you're making it sound like we got a ticket and then they just brought out our food.
Well, I said we brought a ticket, gave them the ticket, and they brought us our food after
Yeah,
that.
they-
And then,
Okay, there you
call
go.
the number.
There you go.
that's like the only human interaction where they just went up to us, took our ticket, and that's it, and it then gave us our food.
Yeah.
And it's happening regardless. I'm pretty sure that whenever we catch up to Japan in technology, because they always are ahead of us. Damn it, Japan! Come on, let us have some. It's gonna happen here, no matter how much money we make, and it's just how do we deal with the automation? But I think that's like a separate topic for
I don't think it's going to take over. Is from what you in your original question.
I do think it's gonna take over a lot of jobs at some point. It's just a matter of like when. It might be like 50 years from now, it might be 100, but it's gonna happen at some point as technology, develops further and further. Like, it's like, do you want someone working at McDonald's like 100 years from now when that job can be done by machine, as long as that person's compensated in some way, whether it's like a different job or some shit. Automation can be a good thing if we deal with it properly. But
Yeah,
again,
just-
that's a separate topic for a different day. Unless you want to talk about that. But.
You can just give them, Skynet and their programming. I'm totally cool with it.
Yes, yes. We're almost there.
You guys want some? I'm kind of.
I'm sorry if I use McChickens as the example. Okay,
It is the perfect example because
it's the perfect example because I remember back in the day they were $1, and every time I got if I got money as a gift or somebody gave me money, I'm like, for example, I got $20. Like, oh shoot, I can buy 20 McChickens with this. I was like, it's so easy to calculate because it's $1.
Yeah, it's like a great equalizer.
And
It
now
brought
you're
out.
telling me I'm not getting the 20 McChickens that I would have gotten back then.
I remember when they did the stupid McPick shit, where it's like you pick 2 for $2.50. That's not $1 anymore. You're fucking up the math. And then now it's not even $1 something anymore. It's like $2.50 or some shit.
I sound like an old person. Back in my day, I could buy 20 McChickens with this $20.
Whenever I'm a grandpa, that's gonna be the story I'm gonna tell all the time, and my grandkids will get fucking tired of me. They're like, "We know, Grandpa, used to be $1 back in the day." Ha ha ha. Well, $1 was all it costed. It was affordable. You can calculate back then. Now it's like $5.50 for some reason. This is bullshit.
It's because the minimum wage rose.
That's what I beat my grandkids right then and there. Like, watch this podcast episode before you say stupid shit like that. All right, episode 33.
Just letting you guys know, we do not advocate beating your kids. Or maybe some of us do, but not all.
Wasn't that a topic of discussion in one of your podcast episodes?
Jeffrey.
Yeah.
I think Jeffrey wanted to bring up the topic, like, hey, do you agree with beating your kids?
Yeah.
Or if we were parents.
Did you guys beat your kids? Like, oh shit, I never thought about that. Like, I always wanted to practice my right hook. So.
Perfect. Right?
Watch out, you're gonna get
but
canceled.
seriously, message PSA for out there. Don't spank your kids. There's nothing good about it. All the stories that have been done says that it doesn't work. It teaches your kid to fear you, not to respect you, and it doesn't give them very good ways to deal with emotions later on in life. Don't spank your kids.
People of the internet, do not cancel culture the Nincompoops. These are all really good guys, okay? They do not advocate beating your kids.
Beating your grandkids, however, is a whole different story.
Oh, what?
It was a different era. It was a different era.
I was gonna say, we don't advocate spanking. Only your romantic partners in very specific settings.
Come here, Sonny. It's that time of the day where I practice my right hook.
Indeed. All right, so that was all the questions right there. So that was debate. Nice and concise, unlike the previous ones we had, where it just kind of went on.
The first debate, we just tossed fucking questions at you guys.
There was a giant.
It was like a debate speed round, basically.
It wasn't really a debate, the first one. It was more of a Q&A. All right, here are questions. What are your answers to them?
Indeed.
Oh, your answers differ? Okay, now you can talk about it.
Or it's more I also agree with what this person just said. And people like to say I like when people agree and work together. But when it comes to the debate format, that's really boring. No one wants to watch that. Well, people want to see blood. Is what people want to see. At least
So what you're basically saying
pushback.
is you actually want me and Jim to go fisticuffs, is what you're trying to say.
I want to see
next week.
combat.
Actually, whenever Joram's out of school, the next podcast will be at his backyard. We'll make an artificial boxing ring, and then we'll go at it. All right.
I want a drugged up Jeffrey. That's who I want to take on.
Oh yes.
Call him out.
Drugged up and hangry Jeffrey.
If you're
the
listening,
biggest
Jeffrey,
backyard out of everyone here.
the Shaolin Showdown's been cast.
With Shingon Wu wagering against Jeffrey, we must know.
Put in the comment section what Shangang Wu we should be wagering.
Jeez.
Oh, dude, you guys can be in gi and everything. Just fucking.
Yeah.
Have you ever taken like a martial arts before, or Jerome?
No, but I've done boxing and kickboxing, so.
Oh shit.
You know what? I think Jeffrey took
Taekwondo.
Taekwondo. Was it Taekwondo? Okay.
Yeah, it was
Yes.
Taekwondo.
He took it like for a semester at
Yeah.
our
Um,
local university. So, but it's only like I assume it's the same as me. He like started as a white belt, finished off the semester as a white belt because I took judo and
mhm.
I was terrible when I started. I was still kind of terrible at the end of the semester. So yeah, that's probably like an even match, probably.
It's probably an even match. Yeah.
Probably an even match.
Wait, you against Joram or you against Jeffrey?
Either or. You can like switch out either between the three of us. The results will probably be the same.
Well, I learned from the best. So I think I don't know if I can beat Joram, but I can definitely take on you and Jeffrey, bro. I learned from my boy. Hogan. I learned this atomic leg drop, bro.
That's a challenge right there.
That is a challenge.
I'll come out in red and yellow and everything.
One day, if this podcast gets a bunch of 5 stars or thumbs up, let's say like 1,000, something within the possibility of reason, we'll probably do it.
1,000 likes, we'll do
We'll do a
real life
background
wrecking
fight.
tournament.
We'll do a fight club.
Yeah,
It'll be a brawl royale.
And
did-
everyone who's been on this podcast will be on it. It'll be Casey, Joram, Helen.
Whoa.
I don't feel comfortable anymore, dude.
Battle Royale.
Nincompoops Rumble.
yeah.
I'm pretty sure Ron is gonna win if he's a part of it, but you know, it's about,
Yeah, I definitely don't feel comfortable anymore.
No, we could balance it out. Have him be the first one in the ring, and then we'll have it so like okay.
Damn,
It
it's
starts
such
off
like
with-
it's such
starts
a
off with
fucking guy.
battle royale or what?
We'll do it how we'll start off with like 2 people at the beginning, and then as time goes on, or like another minute goes by, another person joins in, and then another person joins in, and then
Yeah.
elimination.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's a
yeah,
Royal
well-
Rumble.
I gotta watch more WWE to get the rules down.
Yeah.
There's only
No,
one rule.
this isn't Japan or anything. It's to like, it's the fight to the death, bro.
Yeah,
Like,
you get thrown out the ring, you're out. So we'll put
I
Ron.
thought we were gonna like kill each other. Oh,
I
my bad.
mean, we could.
I
At some point, you know.
I can just see like the announcer like, oh shoot, Paul's going for that. Oh my gosh, Jeffrey's coming in with a metal chair.
Oh no!
He does like a goofy like.
When he and I had a conversation about his goofy laugh, and not goofy as in like as an adjective, like legit the goofy laugh. When we
Mhm.
went hiking the other day, he's like, he asked me like, why are you guys so uncomfortable with my goofy laugh? And for those of us here in the podcast that know in our Discord server, Jeffrey recently put up a video of Goofy in court. He's like put on trial for murder, apparently. And it's a very disturbing video. And it kept going on. It was like a 2 to 3 minute video of like Goofy laughing, like, yeah, I killed him. Yeah, I'll do it again. And it was like, I do a terrible Goofy laugh, but that's what Jeffrey kept referring to a lot. And he was laughing.
He brought it up. Like I was scared that he was just like, you know how when you practice something, eventually you get used to it, so it just comes out naturally. I was scared that was gonna become his natural laugh at some point. That whenever he laughs, it just that's his laugh by default. I was just like, no, please, don't do it.
Yeah, this is why we talked about before. If we ever decide to go camping, I don't know if we ever brought this on the podcast. If we ever decide to go camping, and for whatever reason we decide to bring a gun, we ain't giving it to Jeffrey.
Yeah, he can be in pot control.
Legit question though, where is Jeffrey?
He works odd hours now.
Oh,
A lot
okay.
more. So I think he gets off at like.
We'll talk about that a little bit after we're done with the podcast.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Because I remember Because if I have the time, I usually just check like, okay, they had a podcast today. Because there was 1 week where I was like, there's no podcast, and in my head I'm like, oh, I wonder what happened. So I messaged Jim offline. I'm like, hey, like, did you guys have a podcast today? It was like, no. I'm like, oh, okay, good. I thought I was going crazy.
Yeah, sometimes things pop up and then we just can't have it, or we think we were about to have it literally until like the last minute, and then like almost no one shows up, or just like only 2 of us are here, whoever it is, and we're like, should we wait, or should we cancel, or should we just roll with 2 people?
That's the smallest amount you guys had was 2 people, right?
2 people, yeah.
I think that's what I remember was like you and Jim, and then I saw the title. I was like, Socialism. I'm like, oh fuck, what the hell is this?
I told you that was gonna happen, because like, the 2 politics guys on a Nincompoops podcast, like, we talk about dumb stuff, like, silly stuff that like your average Joe would relate to. No, let's talk about the economic systems between like capitalism,
we talk about stupid shit every time. Like I said before, we always talk about porn, dicks, or hentai somehow. All right, it always comes up. And bidets for some reason too. It always comes up.
God bless the bidet.
Yep.
No,
It's just because you guys miss Japan. That's why.
Fuck yeah, we do.
Hell yeah. Want to go back and live there for life.
Can't wait for this damn pandemic to be over so we can travel again.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Indeed.
Speaking of the pandemic, did you guys get vaccinated already?
I have not.
No, still too young.
Oh, that's right. Damn.
Well, how did you get it? Like, were you? Is it because you of where you?
I work for the school district, so
Oh, so you get priority? Oh, I see.
yeah.
Oh.
I should start working there, bro. Like, get
Yeah,
that-
so if you work at schools or any of those essential areas, you get it. So.
Interesting.
I don't know if this is true or not, because when I took my dad to his doctor's office yesterday, or his doctor's appointment yesterday, I think the doctor mentioned that I think potentially around like April 15th for our area, we could potentially be able to sign up for the vaccine pretty soon. But
That is true.
Okay.
I remember seeing that in Santa Clara County, their website. And I know the governor said that statewide, starting April 15th, people ages 16 and above can sign up
16
for
and
the
above,
vaccine.
yeah. All right, and I think federally for all U.S. adults,
Yes.
it's May 1st
Yeah.
is when that's happening.
Yeah, get your vaccines, everyone. Okay, we want to go to Japan.
Get your vaccines. I want to be done with this damn pandemic. All right, none of us enjoy it. All right, we deal with it because we have to, because we don't want people to die.
Okay.
Simple as that. All right.
Well, we're reaching towards the end. Judges, would you want to cast your votes?
No, I have no votes.
I'll give me 30 seconds and I'll give it to you. I got to tally up the points.
It was a tie.
It was a tie.
Yeah.
It is hard for me to be an unbiased judge, because obviously
I'm a vote for Jim because he was very well prepared in this debate.
he was very well prepared. So I would give it to Jim based on that, but I didn't want to give it to him just because like he's a socialist. I'm also a socialist, so I didn't want to do it based on that. So I just want to, like,
If you didn't know, they're socialists, so
You'd have to judge not based off of what I say, but like how convincing I am.
he
Yeah.
was very well prepared in his debate, and like as someone that's been through a lot of debates, I can say in a sense that Jim, and not in a lot of debates, is like I've physically gone to debate with people, but like have seen debates. Jim handled himself really well in the debate in terms of his demeanor and being able to address points here and there. I thought he did a really good job. That's why, like, when you said it'd be me and Jim, I'm like, oh shoot, okay. I've heard Paul debate. I want to hear how Jim debates.
Yeah, I mean, how edgy I am is kind of depends on who I talk to. If I talk to someone that's like I find reasonable, I'll be less edgy. But if I'm talking to someone like Wacy Burr, I'd be a little bit more edgy in that one.
Indeed.
Very good disguise there on the name.
Yeah.
It's almost as good as like Rooster. All right, lads. That's the end of the podcast. I was about to do the closing, but I don't do the closing, so I'll leave that to you, Jim, because you're a
Okay.
professional at that.
All right, that was another spicy or boring, depending on who you are, episode of the Nincompoops podcast. We've just closed up a debate between Joram and I, and hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you guys think that I did good or won. I would enjoy either of those things. Pretty much from now on, we're gonna try to steer clear from political content because it's not the main focus. But it's okay to have it every once in a while, I think. But since we had two very recently, we'll try to steer away from the whole thing and go back to our usual hentai and porn, bidet
stuff.
porn stuff. All right, we'll get back into that. We'll go back to the Nincompoops, not the big brain poops. But yeah, if you guys enjoyed today's episode, catch us next week live on Twitch at twitch.tv/the_Nincompoops. Link is in the description below if you're watching this on YouTube. Also, if you want to watch our other episodes 1 through 32, this being the 33rd, going on YouTube soon, catch us on YouTube in the description below. Unfortunately, we've been stuck at 32 subs for a while, so I don't think we're getting that custom URL, but it is what it is. But hey,
If
drop
you make accounts and subscribe, that'll be fine.
Drop more than anything, just drop comments reacting to whatever we're saying, because that's always fun, and especially if you have an opinion about the minimum wage or some shit in this episode in particular, or about the McChicken. So if you want to talk about McChicken, drop it in the comments.
Made in bread. Loaves of bread.
not bread. McChicken.
That's too expensive.
It's McChicken or nothing.
It's the McChicken
Lamb bread and
society,
peace,
right?
man.
If you do bad, you get the pickles.
Also,
I actually like this stuff.
we hyped up the McChicken quite a bit this episode, so McDonald's sponsor us, man.
Yeah.
Doesn't have to be money, just McChickens, all right?
Yeah, send us like a box of, McChicken.
The minimum wage thing may be off-putting to you guys, but come on. We love the McChicken, okay?
we shilled for you and your McChickens. How dare you?
I'll move to Alabama if you want me to. Just give me more McChicken.
Jesus.
All right, and yeah, that's
Airport.
about it. Hope you guys had a good time, and yeah, peace.
All right, bye.
Later.